Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a really fascinating and, honestly, kind of unsettling piece of writing called The Insidious Weight of the Modern Debt Trap. If you've ever found yourself wondering how these massive national deficits actually trickle down to impact your day-to-day life, well, you are definitely in the right place. We're going to look past the abstract math and see how modern debt literally shapes our society. Let's get right into it.
230 billion euros. That is Romania's current external debt, according to our source material. When we hear a number that astronomically huge, 230 with 9 zeros just trailing after it, it almost feels, well, fake, right? Like it's just an immaterial figure way too big for our brains to even really comprehend. But our source argues that is exactly the trap. We treat these staggering figures like they're just harmless abstractions, when in reality, they're a very concrete, heavy burden.
Which brings us to Section 1, the 230 billion euro burden, managing the unmanaged.
So, the crucial point the author makes right out of the gate is how this absolute mountain of debt isn't really being managed at all. If you trace the path over the last 30 years, you see that external debt just began growing and growing. And in recent years, that growth didn't just casually continue, it rapidly accelerated, blowing right past that massive 230 billion euro threshold today. Literally, for 3 decades, it's traveled in only one direction, straight up. And alarmingly, the source notes that practically no one, not the state, not the union, and honestly not even the public, seems genuinely concerned with actually reducing it.
Moving on to Section 2, the good debt myth. Harmless or harmful?
Now, you might be wondering, if the debt is snowballing so incredibly fast, why isn't there widespread panic? Well, mainstream economics constantly tells us that debt doesn't really matter. We're told it's just a standard driver of capitalist growth, a totally natural tool for success. But the source text pushes back hard against this narrative. It firmly states that these mainstream claims are just fundamentally false. Instead of being this harmless, helpful tool, the author argues that any national debt is a very concrete economic burden. It's a major disadvantage that actively destabilizes a country's delicate equilibrium.
The author really anchors this whole perspective with a striking thought. A debt always represents something concrete, something real, even if it appears to be nothing more than an immense collection of immaterial figures. So what does this actually mean for us? It means this isn't just about some digital ledgers sitting in a central bank somewhere. It has direct, tangible consequences for everyday citizens, what they can produce and what they actually own. Think about it. If a country truly belongs to its people, then this massive hovering debt is a very real, very heavy weight on their collective potential.
This brings us to Section 3, modernization versus debt reduction, the aid paradox. Okay, so this introduces a genuinely fascinating paradox regarding external aid. Where exactly are all these supposed modernization funds actually flowing? Well, overwhelmingly, they focus on technology, consumption-driven goods, and physical assets that rapidly depreciate. Notice what is glaringly absent from that list. Yep, debt reduction. There is literally zero focus on it. The author pointedly asks why external interventions completely ignore this immense, growing financial burden. Instead, they choose to fund flashy consumer objects that lose their value almost the second they are acquired. So rather than actually alleviating the debt, these interventions are essentially doing the exact opposite.
Next up is Section 4, the widening wealth gap. Who exactly benefits from debt?
So who is actually winning in this system of consumer-focused modernization? Well, the official statistical trends cited in the text reveal a pretty striking, vicious circle. On one hand, the number of millionaires just continues to climb sharply. But on the other hand, small businesses are out there struggling just to survive, and low-income earners are facing increasing everyday hardship. The data essentially suggests that while a truly healthy economy should lift up all of its social strata equitably, our current structure is burying the vulnerable while exclusively benefiting a select few at the top.
When you place these completely contrasting economic trajectories side by side, they point toward, as the text perfectly puts it, a truth or a reality hidden deeply and insidiously beneath our everyday lives. We simply can't just accept a reality of rising millionaires right next to struggling everyday workers without recognizing that there is a systemic failure happening. And it's insidious precisely because it's masked by all this everyday, cheerful rhetoric about economic progress and acceptable national debt.
And that leads us right into our final section, Section 5, the purpose of community, the human cost.
We've looked at these staggering, almost unbelievable numbers and those widening wealth divides, which naturally brings us to the author's philosophical conclusion. And the source clarifies here that this analysis isn't just driven by some dark pessimism, but rather a real desire to bring these concrete realities out into the open. Inequality, injustice, and indifference, they are growing in absolute lockstep with the national debt. When a system completely prioritizes massive debt and unequal modernization over genuine, equitable development, these are the very real human consequences that emerge from that choice.
Which ultimately leaves us with the author's final, deeply provocative thought. If the trajectory of a modern society is one where debt, inequality, and systemic injustice just continually grow together, we really have to stop and ask ourselves, what is the actual purpose of community? What is the point of all of us living under the banner of the same country? It challenges us to look way past those immaterial, abstract figures and question what a national economy is actually supposed to do for its people. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning the numbers out there, and I'll see you next time.